नहीं तो टूर में हिस्ट्री में खो जाते हैं सारा।
माल रोड की जितनी भी कहानियाँ हैं,
हाँ, माल रोड की कहानियाँ, खन्ना साहब, प्रेमचंद जैन, it'll get too juiced up. I better watch it. हाँ, Steve, when I saw the clouds yesterday, I thought, here we go, winter begins, and then the clouds disappeared, and today was a nice warm day, and so you never know actually, and it is warming up. I mean, it's warmer now in October than it's been most years. ठंडा हो जाता है.
Yeah, no, it's always, for me in Missouri, when winter is approaching and things are sort of getting cooler and there are fewer and fewer tourists in town, it's the time that, of course, that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, I enjoy the most here too, when there are fewer people around here.
And I always used to tease my friends in town that during the season, कोई मुझे पहचानता नहीं है. मान रोड पर जाओ and वो दूसरी तरफ अपने बिजनेस में लगे हैं.
हाँ, सब अपने धंधे पे.
जैसे जाना शुरू होती है,
तब सबको
everybody becomes your friend. किसी से भी बात करो,
किसी से बात कर लो,
गले लगाओ,
पहचानते हैं,
गप मारो, and it's the best time.
Yeah.
And during the season when business is on, भूल जाते हैं.
Yeah, all the stories, Steve, जो जमा करते हैं ना, what I collect is once this winter begins, and that's when you get all the stories from the mall road.
Right.
About which hotel you've bodies tumbling out of cupboards, or there was one hotel where they took this couple checked in and the bed was a little uncomfortable, so they opened the bunk bed. And someone's left the body inside the bunk bed.
The murder victim was there.
Murder victim was inside the bunk bed. That keeps happening. Then in another hotel, I remember one time the manager ran and said, "Sir, they've taken the mattress. They've taken the mattress from the room." And so they rang up the cops at Kolukher, and the owner of the car, he yelled at the driver, "Kyun laya chor ke?" The driver said, "Saab, aapne to do laane ko kahe the, main to ek hi laya." So you have this tremendous, all the stories that come out of the mall are just amazing. I mean, there was Khanna Saab, the optician, I remember. He would look, he would be selling his chashmas, and he'd look at the ugliest thing that God made and say, "You are looking like Queen." and when she'd gone, he'd say to me, "Kya kitni bhaddi hai Saili sahab? क्या काम कराता है पेट में से."
But you were talking about murder victims. There were a lot of potential murder victims as well. I remember one person who remained nameless, but he would always stop his car right in the middle of the Mall Road and block traffic, especially on Mullingar. There were many times. And there would be a line of vehicles for, 10, 15 vehicles stopped, and he was buying his sabzi or he was getting something like that. And he would just oblivious of the rest of us, and we'd all haath jod ke ki sir aap gadi chala
loki sasti mil rahi hai.
But he was also famous because he had a pet dog, but he also had a pet sheep, and he would walk with his dog and his sheep together along the path. ऐसे नमूने थे.
बड़ा.
But I think, one of the things about the Mall Road that I've always carried with me from when I was a boy was that we would always refer to certain young men as loafers. And they would sit by the side of the road just for hours. Apne gap marna and passing comments.
Don't look at me, Steve.
No, I know. But I've always thought.
सारी जवानी कटी हमारी.
No, I was going to get a.
Diamond wine shop के बाहर बैठे हुए रेलिंग पे, खन्ना साहब की सुंदर लड़कियां थी, and one would spend hours sitting on the railing there, and almost everybody, the railing had bent in the end.
Yes.
It had sort of bent with our collective weight. And loafer कहते थे हमें सारे हाँ. और जब हम when we was younger, I think just adolescents, and then we used to hear of ये Hackman's में कैबरे होता था. कैबरे बंद हो गया शहर में हाँ. There'll be a riot if you had a cabaret in Missouri. अगर बॉल रोड पे कैबरे किसी होटल ने करा दिया तो आफत हो जाएगी. उस टाइम पे कैबरे होते थे और we were young and we would be couldn't afford to go in, weren't allowed to go in, and so we would peep through the railings. We would sit down on the outside Hackman's and peep through the railings and think we were doing something big. I remember that. Yeah, very vividly.
Yeah. Well, I think for us it was always Saturdays were our day to go into town. We were students at Woodstock. And so we would get maybe 2 rupees, 3 rupees pocket money. And you knew that you could go into town and you'd ration yourself. You might buy a chocolate bar at Ramchand's. Then you'd have enough money left for the 75 paisa seats at Rialto. And whichever film was showing.
11 to 1 we would, I remember that.
But I still remember one of the things was, we would call ahead to the Rialto and ask them, "Kaun si picture lagi hai?" So I remember one time my cousin Tom and I were sitting and we said, "Chalo picture dekhne chalte hain." So we called Rialto and we said, "What English picture is showing?" So there was silence. The fellow went outside and checked the stills. And then he said, "Sir, aaj ki jo picture hai wo Faint Your Bangle." Faint Your Bangle? Kaun si picture hai? Dekhni padegi. We went there to see it. And in fact, what the picture was, Paint Your Wagon. Lee Marvin, it was a Western.
Lee Marvin Western.
Yeah. But uske baad, we could never call it Paint Your Wagon. It was always Faint Your Bangle.
Faint Your Bangle. It was true. Really amazing. And then we used to have, I remember the same thing, 2 rupees in our pockets, and then Sindhi and
you get 4 puris for 1 rupee. And sabzi jitna kha sakte.
हाँ सब्जी जितनी खा सकते हैं आलू की वो झोल होता था आलू का और वो भी देता अचार भी है हाँ बाद में एक वेटर होता था सुरतू और वो he would bring us हरी मिर्च and प्याज so it got rather elaborate the meal हरी मिर्च प्याज छोले and अचार हाँ and
चार पूरी
और चाय जो होती थी जमुना स्वीट शॉप में 2 की 3 करना और घंटों बैठे रहते पता नहीं उसकी दुकान बंद नहीं हुई कमाल थी कि हम 2 की 3 चाय कहते थे और हर समय you'd pay for 2 and 3 people would drink tea. It's incredible those and then the skating rinks एक Camel's Back पे और एक standard skating rink होती थी 60s तक थी. Then it burned down where the Garhwal Mandal has now come up. And
no, the skating was such a big part of Missouri at that time. I mean, people would spend hours at the rink. And some of them were excellent. I mean, they really would do pirouettes and all sorts of acrobatics.
Even Bambu became a international roller skating referee. Went around the world.
Roller hockey.
Roller hockey.
He was hockey.
And then the skaters would skate from Missouri to Delhi also, on the road.
Well, there was a famous one where they skated. There was a ball-bearing company in Amritsar that sponsored a roller skating marathon from Missouri to Amritsar. And I think all of Missouri's finest and bravest young men.
Souls. Excluding both of us.
We wouldn't have made it even there. But I think these poor fellas, by the time they got to Ludhiana, the ball bearings had also worn down.
They become square.
But they made it.
They must have become Rubik's Cube by that time. Incredible. Those stories.
But the one thing that I remember early on, I think the only writer at that time in Missouri whose name anybody recognized was Ruskin. And this I'm talking about the 70s.
70s, yes. 70s Ruskin was the only one,
But
Yeah.
then all of us had aspirations and we
Yeah.
tried as hard as we could. And then there was a certain point at which everybody in Missouri on the Mall Road became a writer.
हाँ
मतलब हर दूसरे कदम पे writer.
हाँ 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 मुझे याद है. There was one guy who would bring screenplays.
Yeah.
बिल्कुल मेरी picture तैयार है कोई बना नहीं रहा है. There was this tailor I remember. He would do screenplays and only for Hindi movies.
Right.
So it never got published. It never got made into a film. And I think they died with him. We should dig them up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the thing about the Mall Road is that there's literally a story at every step.
Every company.
If you went from shop to shop, hotel to hotel, and sort of thought about the history of it, but also the anecdotes that people have told over time. Many of the anecdotes that we can't tell in this session here, which we'll keep to ourselves.
Yes.
That I think is...
You and I'll have a plethora of people suing us.
Yes.
And yes, absolutely. Every shop has a story. There used to be this thing between Cambridge Book Depot and Sindhi Halwai, the owners, and they would pull practical pranks on each other. And Sindhi rang up one day. He rang up Mr. Arora's wife and said, "तुम्हारे यहाँ आज खाने पे आ रहे हैं शाम को 8 आदमी." And so when Mr. Arora went home for lunch, there she was, he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Daddy, there dinner, 8 people. I got a message on the phone saying 8 people coming." He said, "Band kari se." So, koi nahi aa raha. And then he rang up Sindhi and said, "वो birthday party है Connaught Castle में,
अच्छा.
और birthday party है तो उसमें इतने गुलाब जामुन चाहिए, आलू पूरी." और वो पहुंचा वहाँ कुछ नहीं हो रहा था. There was no birthday party. Practical pranks they used to pull. And Sindhi I remember used to have this one prank. The Mall Road was kacha, Bajri, and people would slip on it. No, not get, just sort of, miss a step or something, not get hurt, but miss a step. And every time someone missed a step, he would hang out over his ghanta and go dun 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 for the thrill of it.
One of the things that I often think about, and it always fascinated me, I think Missouri's politics are tied to the Mall Road.
Yeah.
Because jo bhi neta banta hai, he walks through the town and is greeting everybody.
Namaskar,
Namaskar,
chamatkar, chamatkar.
And one of my favorite moments was we were organizing the Missouri Mountain Festival years ago. And we had got a group from Srinagar to reenact the Nanda Devi Rajat Yatra on the thing. So we had about 30-40 performers coming along the Mall Road as if it was the Nanda Devi Yatra, with band, baja, the whole thing. हमारे प्यारे नेता लोग आ गए, उसमें हमने उनको invite किया, and they came, so they were also in
part of the Raja. Okay.
Now when we approached Hackman's, just below the Kacheri, from the other side there was a protest march by the hotel employees association. And there it was Hi Murdabad and all that was happening, and from here it was Jai Nanda and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now the politicians were in a fix because they also wanted to show support for the employees union. They were also in the Nanda Devi, and you could see on their faces this moment ki
Namaskar to band
kahan se jaun, kiske saath jaun. And it was a wonderful moment. But the wonderful thing, the final part of that was that the hotel employees union people, they stopped and were all worshipping the Devi as she went by. And
they took 2 separate roads.
Two separate. They went there. But it was one of those moments on the. I mean, the politicians didn't know where to turn. And,
they still don't. I remember that. Yeah.
It was
incredible. Things that happen on the Mall Road. Oof. It's amazing. It's like, anything you want to know, there's such a watershed of a difference between the attitudes of people on the mall and the people in the little village. I think Lando is still classified as a village.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, there's definitely a feeling that you've passed into another part of
Time
town.
zone.
When you go beyond the clock tower, then
You're
something
another-
else has happened.
Yeah. It's like, Lando still has its magic. And yes, the mall road is entirely different. Yes.
Well, as you get down to Picture Palace and then Kulri and
Yeah,
that
I miss
area,
the cinema also, Steve.
That's
I miss Picture Palace with its seats that would slip out
right.
under you,
Right.
and suddenly you're watching a film and go thud.
Yeah.
And then in Rialto, I remember Arthur Fisher. He was the projectionist there, and he would get the reels mixed up.
Yeah.
Always the reels got mixed up,
Right.
and the Vikings who had been dead would be reincarnated, and they'd come back again on stage to fight one last time.
And it didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
We just clapped.
Yeah.
And I remember that film, that song, Jhumka Gira Re Bareilly Ke Bazaar Mein, and we whistled till they showed it again.
Yeah.
So they'd say, Abhi dikhayenge. Then in the end, they started saying, film ke ant mein, Gana, Jhumka Gira Re, fir dikhaya jayega. Don't whistle in the middle.
Well, and the projectionist, often the focus would go. So everybody would start shouting, focus!
Focus. And you would, then there was Capitol, where the projector had got so old, it would make it would override the soundtrack. And you'd go, it's like a swimming pool, that thing was. I think it was a swimming pool that they converted into cinema hall in the old Palladium.
In the Palladium.
Yeah, in the Palladium. The ground floor they put that Capital Cinema.
We've lost the cinemas, but I think what we've also lost is the traffic on the Mall Road. It used to be primarily pedestrians.
Yeah.
There would be the rickshaws for the bade locals.
Rickshaws mein jate the.
But then there were horses.
Yeah.
Horse riding was there. And occasionally a car would pass through. A few motorcycles here and there. But primarily that was the traffic, and that had a different pace to it.
That had
And a different feel to it. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that has changed, the
That's
traffic. I was thinking to myself the other day, it's primarily two-wheelers and the big,
Fortuners and-
the Fortuners, the Audis, the XUVs that, have taken over. But where we plod on, one could almost do a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Plod on.